The gentle hum of the ship's engines did little to soothe the ache in my chest as I watched Earth, our home, shrink to a pale blue dot in the viewport. After everything we'd been through, after saving humanity time and time again, it had come to this. Exile. I still can't believe it, Fang growled, his massive frame hunched over a console. We did everything right. We exposed the conspiracy, we saved them from themselves. And this is how they repay us. I couldn't find it in myself to disagree. The memory of the final vote in the United Earth Council was still fresh in my mind. Despite our best efforts, despite the impassioned pleas of Dr. Rhett and our human allies, fear had won out over reason. Earth is hereby declared a no-neodog zone, the council president had announced, her voice devoid of emotion. All enhanced canines are to be relocated off-world within 30 days. This decision is final and binding. Nova, our human teammate who had chosen exile with us, placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. We'll make it through this, Rex. We always do. I nodded, grateful for her presence. She, along with a handful of other humans who had fought alongside us, had refused to abandon their neodog comrades. Their loyalty was a bright spot in this dark moment. Whisker's voice came over the ship's intercom, interrupting my brooding. Captain, I think I've found something. A potential new home. We gathered in the bridge as Whiskers brought up a holographic display of a planet. At first glance, it looked like Mars, red, dusty, and seemingly lifeless. But as the display zoomed in, I saw something that made my breath catch. It's... Glowing Fang asked, tilting his head in confusion. Whiskers nodded excitedly. The planet's crust is rich in phosphorescent minerals. During the day, it practically shines white. I felt a tug of emotion I couldn't quite name. Like the moon, I murmured. Exactly, Whiskers continued. But here's the best part, it's isolated, far from any established human colonies, and with the terraforming equipment Dr. Rhett smuggled us, we could make it habitable. The decision was unanimous. This glowing planet, reminiscent of the moon that dogs had howled at for millennia, would be our new home. As we approached the planet, which we had started calling Luna Nova in a fit of nostalgia, I couldn't help but reflect on how we'd gotten here. The conspiracy we'd uncovered, the battles we'd fought, the truths we'd revealed, all of it should have been enough. But fear, it seemed, was a more potent force than we'd realized. The politicians who had orchestrated Project Cerberus might be behind bars, but the damage they'd done lingered. They had planted the seeds of doubt, of suspicion, and those seeds had grown into an insurmountable wall between neodogs and the humans we'd sworn to protect. Our ship touched down on Luna Nova's surface, kicking up a cloud of glowing dust. As we disembarked, the harsh reality of our situation hit home. This barren, airless world was all we had now. Well, Fang said, his voice muffled by his environment suit, guess we better get to work. And work we did. Over the next few weeks, we threw ourselves into the task of making Luna Nova livable. We set up the atmospheric generators, marveling at the technology that humans had reverse-engineered from our alien enemies. Slowly but surely, a breathable atmosphere began to form. As I watched the first clouds gather in Luna Nova's sky, I felt a mix of pride and sorrow. Pride in what we were accomplishing, sorrow for the home and the people we'd left behind. One evening, as we gathered around our fledgling base after a long day of work, Nova voiced what we'd all been thinking. Do you think they'll ever change their minds? Realize what they've lost. I looked at my team, Fang, Whiskers, Nova, and the other loyal humans and neodogs who had chosen exile with us. Each face showed the same mixture of hope and resignation. I don't know, I admitted. But whatever happens, we have each other. We're more than a team now. We're a pack. As if to punctuate my words, a distant howl echoed across Luna Nova's glowing plains. One of the younger neodogs, feeling the pull of instinct in this alien world. One by one, we joined in, our howls rising to a sky that had never known the sound of dogs before. It was a song of sorrow for what we'd lost, of defiance in the face of rejection, and of hope for what we might yet become. As our howls faded, I looked out at the glowing horizon of our new home. Earth had turned its back on us, But we were far from finished. We were neo-dogs created to be humanity's protectors, forged in the crucible of war, tempered by betrayal. Whatever the galaxy threw at us next, we would face it together. Little did I know, as I stood there on the cusp of our new life, that the galaxy had plans of its own. Plans that would call us back to the role we were born for, whether humanity wanted us or not. Our exile had begun, but our story was far from over. In fact, it was about to take a turn none of us could have anticipated. The twin suns of Luna Nova crested the horizon, bathing our fledgling colony in an ethereal glow. As I stepped out of our main habitat dome, the newly formed atmosphere tingled against my fur. It was breathable now, but just barely. We still had a long way to go. Morning, Rex Nova called out, her voice slightly distorted by the breathing mask she still needed. Ready for another exciting day of watching grass grow. I chuckled, despite the undercurrent of frustration in her voice. We'd been on Luna Nova for 3 months now, and the novelty of terraforming a planet was wearing thin. Hey, that grass is a milestone, I replied, padding over to where she was monitoring a field of genetically engineered plants. First complex life on Luna Nova. We should be proud. Nova sighed, removing her mask briefly to rub her eyes. I know, it's just. I never thought I'd miss trees this much. I nuzzled her hand comfortingly, a gesture that felt both familiar and strange. Our relationships had evolved in exile, the lines between human and neo-dog blurring as we relied on each other more than ever. A sudden commotion from the main dome drew our attention. Fang burst out, his tail wagging with more enthusiasm than I'd seen in weeks. You've got to see this, he barked. Whiskers picked up something on the long-range scanners. Intrigued, Nova and I followed him back inside. The main room of our habitat had become a mix of high-tech command center and cozy living space. Whiskers sat at the central console, his whiskers twitching excitedly as he manipulated holographic displays. What have you got? I asked, leaning in to study the screens. A ship, Whiskers replied, his voice tinged with both excitement and apprehension. Human by the looks of it. Passenger liner, probably off course. A tense silence fell over the room. We hadn't had any contact with the outside world since our exile began. The thought of encountering humans now stirred a complex mix of emotions. Should we hail them? Nova asked, voicing the question on all our minds. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to ignore the ship, to protect our new home from potential threats. But the larger part, the part that had been bred and trained to protect, couldn't turn away from a potential need. Yes, I decided. But we keep our location obscured. Let's see what they want before we reveal ourselves. As Whiskers worked to establish communication, my mind drifted back to the day we left Earth. The memory surfaced with painful clarity. Dr. Rhett stood before us, her eyes red-rimmed but determined. I'm so sorry, she said, her voice breaking. We fought as hard as we could, but... We know, Doc, I replied, trying to keep the bitterness from my voice. You did everything you could. She nodded, then gestured to a large crate behind her. I couldn't stop this, but I could prepare you for it. This contains the latest terraforming tech we've developed. It's not official, but... Well, let's just say I have some friends who owe me favors. Fang's ears perked up. You're giving us the means to build a new home. It's the least I can do, Dr. Red said. She hesitated, then pulled me into a tight hug. You were created to be humanity's protectors. Never forget that, Rex, no matter what small-minded politicians say. As we boarded our ship, I looked back one last time at the world we were leaving. Earth shimmered blue and green, beautiful and heartbreaking in its indifference to our departure. Rex Nova's voice snapped me back to the present. They're responding. I shook off the memory and focused on the holographic display. A human face appeared, a middle-aged man with captain's insignia. This is Captain Hernandez of the passenger liner Starlight Wanderer, he said, his voice tinged with relief. We've suffered a critical system failure and are in need of assistance. Can you help us? I exchanged glances with my team. This was our first test. Do we reveal ourselves, risk potential hostility, or do we stay hidden and safe? In the end, It wasn't really a choice at all. Captain Hernandez, I replied, stepping into view of our transmitter. This is Rex Wolfborn. My team and I are ready to assist. The captain's eyes widened in recognition. You're the Neo-Dogs, the ones who saved Earth. I nodded, bracing for rejection or fear. Instead, the captain's face broke into a wide grin. Thank the stars, he said. I couldn't ask for better help. We've got over 1,000 passengers on board, and our life support is failing. Can you guide us in for repairs? Relief and a renewed sense of purpose washed over me. Absolutely, Captain. Transmitting coordinates now. Welcome to Luna Nova. As we scrambled to prepare for the incoming ship, I couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, not all of humanity had forgotten what we stood for. Fang bumped his shoulder against mine as we worked. Feels good, doesn't it? He said, being needed again. I nodded, a familiar determination settling over me. Yeah, it does. Let's show them what Neo-Dogs can do. As the Starlight Wanderer appeared in our sky, a glowing dot growing larger by the minute, I realized something. We might have been exiled from Earth, but we hadn't lost our purpose. New horizons stretched before us, full of challenges and possibilities. Luna Nova was our home now, but the whole galaxy was our responsibility. And we were just getting started. The repair of the Starlight Wanderer had been a success. As we watched the passenger liner depart, its hull gleaming in Luna Nova's otherworldly light, I felt a bittersweet mix of pride and longing. We had helped those humans, reminded them of what Neo-Dogs could do, but now we were alone again. Think they'll tell others about us? Fang asked, his tail swishing thoughtfully. I shrugged. Maybe. But who knows if anyone will listen? Weeks passed, and life on Luna Nova settled into a new rhythm. Our terraforming efforts were showing real progress. Patches of engineered grass spread across the glowing plains, and the air grew richer by the day. We even started work on a small forest, the first trees reaching hopefully towards alien skies. But despite our accomplishments, there was an undercurrent of restlessness among the team. We were made for more than gardening, no matter how planetary in scale. It was Nova who finally voiced what we were all feeling. I miss it, she said one evening as we gathered in the common area. The action, the purpose, saving people. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the group. Even the human members of our team, those who had chosen exile with us, nodded. We all do, I replied, but... I was cut off by a sudden, insistent beeping from the communications console. Whiskers darted over, his paws flying across the controls. It's a distress call, he said, his voice tense with excitement. Coming from Sector 9. We all knew what that meant. Sector 9 was deep in what humans called the frontier, the wild, largely unexplored region of space where danger and opportunity went hand in hand. Patching it through now, Whiskers announced. A voice crackled through the speakers, distorted by distance and fear. This is Captain Yara of the freighter Boundless. We are under attack by unknown hostiles. Our weapons are ineffective. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help. The message repeated, growing more desperate with each iteration. We stood in stunned silence for a moment, the implications sinking in. Fang was the first to speak. We have to help them. It could be a trap, Nova pointed out, though I could hear the conflict in her voice. Or a misunderstanding. We don't know anything about these unknown hostiles. I closed my eyes, weighing our options. We had sworn to protect humanity, but humanity had rejected us. We had found peace here on Luna Nova, a chance to build something new. Did we really want to risk that? But as I looked at my team, human and Neo-Dog alike, I saw the same fire in their eyes that I felt in my heart. We were protectors, defenders. It was more than our training, it was who we were. Whiskers, I said, my decision made, prep the ship. Nova, start gathering intel on Sector 9 and these unknown hostiles. Fang, let's check our combat gear. It's been a while, but I have a feeling we're going to need it. As we scrambled to prepare, a memory surfaced, a conversation with Dr. Rhett just before our exile. Rex, she had said, her voice heavy with emotion. I need you to promise me something." "Anything, Doc." She took a deep breath. "Don't let this exile change who you are. You and your team, you're the best of what we created. The best of what humanity and canines can be together. Never forget that." I had nodded, not trusting myself to speak. "The day may come," she continued, "when humanity needs you again. And when it does, I hope you'll answer the call. Not because you have to, but because it's who you are." Now, as we boarded our ship, checking weapons and systems we hadn't used in months, I realized we were fulfilling that promise. Not for the humans who had exiled us, but for the idea of what we could be together. "All systems go," Whiskers reported from the pilot's seat. "Course laid in for Sector 9. I took my place at the command station, feeling a familiar surge of adrenaline. "All right, team, let's show these unknown hostiles what happens when you mess with humanity while Neodogs are on watch." As our ship lifted off, leaving the glowing surface of Luna Nova behind, I felt a sense of rightness settle over me. We were heading into danger, into the unknown, but we were doing it together. We were doing what we were born to do. The stars streaked by as we entered FTL, and I allowed myself a small, fierce grin. Whoever these attackers were, they were about to learn a harsh lesson: you can exile the Neodogs, but you can't take away their bite. "Hold on. Boundless," I muttered as we hurtled through space. "The cavalry's coming." The ship shuddered as we dropped out of FTL, the starfield stabilizing around us. Ahead, the scene that greeted us was chaos incarnate. The freighter Boundless drifted listlessly, scorch marks marring its hull. Surrounding it were ships unlike anything I'd ever seen, organic-looking craft that pulsed with an eerie, bioluminescent glow. They moved with an unsettling fluidity, more like deep-sea creatures than spacecraft. "What in the name of Pavlov are those?" Fang growled, his hackles rising. Nova's fingers flew across her console. No matches in any known database. These must be the slimes the humans mentioned. I leaned forward, my enhanced eyes picking out details. "Look at how they're attaching to the freighter. They're not trying to destroy it, they're boarding." "Boundless, this is Rex Wolfborn of the Luna Nova Defense Force," I transmitted, improvising our designation. "We're here to assist. What's your status?" The response was immediate and frantic. "Thank the stars. They've breached our hull in multiple locations. We've got crew trapped in various sections, and these things are moving through the ship." "Understood, Boundless. Hold tight, we're coming in." I turned to my team, seeing the same determination in their eyes that I felt. "All right, Pack, this is what we trained for. Whiskers, you're on point with tech. Nova, you've got Overwatch. Fang, you're with me on the assault team. The rest of you, secure our ship and be ready for emergency evac." As we approached the Boundless, the alien ships took notice. 2 of them detached from the freighter and moved to intercept us. "Evasive maneuvers," I barked, and our pilot, a former EDF ace named Rodriguez, put our ship through a series of stomach-churning rolls and dives. Energy pulses, more like globs of superheated plasma than traditional weapons fire, streaked past us. One glanced off our shields, causing them to flare brilliantly. "Shields at 80%, Whiskers reported. Their weapons are unusual. It's like they're spitting concentrated acid." "Let's not get hit again," then I growled. "Rodriguez, get us in close to the Boundless. We need to dock." What followed was a harrowing dance through space. Rodriguez's piloting skills, honed in countless battles, proved invaluable as we weaved between alien attacks and the Boundless's debris field. Finally, with a metallic clang that resonated through the ship, we docked. "Good work, everyone," I said, checking my gear one last time. "Now comes the hard part. Remember, our priority is the human crew. We don't know what these slimes want, but we're not letting them have it." As the airlock cycled, I felt a familiar calm settle over me. This was what we were made for: facing the unknown, protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. The moment the doors opened, we were hit by a wave of humid, acrid air. The corridor beyond was dim, emergency lighting casting ominous shadows. "Well," Fang muttered, "smells worse than that time Cooper tried to make chili for the entire barracks." Despite the tension, I felt my mouth twitch in a smile. Some things never changed. We moved through the ship with practiced efficiency, our enhanced senses on high alert. The first signs of the invaders came in the form of a viscous, iridescent substance coating the walls. "It's some kind of bioorganic compound," Whiskers reported, scanning it with his portable device. "Highly adaptable, I think. I think it's how they interface with technology." A sudden scream echoed down the corridor, galvanizing us into action. We rounded a corner to find a scene straight out of a nightmare. 3 human crew members were backed against a wall, facing off against what could only be described as animated slime. The creatures were vaguely humanoid in shape, their translucent bodies rippling with patterns of light. Tentacle-like appendages reached for the terrified humans. Without hesitation, we leapt into action. Fang barreled into the nearest slime creature, his powerful jaws clamping down on what passed for its head. I flanked another, my claws finding purchase in its gelatinous form. To our surprise, the creatures were tougher than they looked. My claws sank into a substance with the consistency of thick rubber, and Fang's teeth seemed to have little effect. "Conventional weapons ineffective," Nova shouted, her plasma rifle shots passing through the aliens with minimal damage. Thinking quickly, I remembered Whiskers' analysis. The walls, I barked. Use the environment. Understanding dawned on my team's faces. We changed tactics, herding the slime creatures towards the coated walls. To our satisfaction, they seemed reluctant to touch their own substance. With a combination of brute force and tactical maneuvering, we managed to trap the aliens against the walls, where they seemed to lose cohesion and slide to the floor. "Are you all right?" I asked the human crew members, who stared at us with a mixture of awe and residual fear. "Why, you're the Neodogs," one of them stammered. "The heroes of Earth. But you were exiled." I felt a pang in my chest but pushed it aside. "That doesn't matter now. We're here to help. Can you tell us more about these invaders?" As the crew filled us in on what they knew, which wasn't much, Whiskers worked on accessing the ship's systems to locate other survivors. "We've got more crew pinned down in engineering," he reported. "And the bridge is sealed off. Captain's still in there." I nodded, formulating a plan. "Fang, take half the team and secure engineering. Nova, Whiskers, you're with me. We're heading for the bridge." As we moved deeper into the ship, facing more of the slime aliens and rescuing crew along the way, I couldn't help but reflect on the irony of our situation. Exiled from Earth for being too dangerous, yet here we were, once again standing as the last line of defense between humanity and an alien threat. But as I watched my team work seamlessly together, humans and Neodogs in perfect sync, I realized something important. It didn't matter what Earth thought of us. This was who we were meant to be. We were protectors, defenders, the thin line between civilization and chaos. And as we fought our way towards the bridge, facing an enemy unlike any we'd encountered before, I knew one thing for certain. The last of the slime aliens oozed off the bridge's reinforced doors, defeated by a combination of our relentless assault and Whiskers' ingenious use of the ship's environmental controls. As the doors slid open, revealing the relieved faces of the bridge crew, I felt the familiar rush of a successful mission. Captain Yara, a tall woman with streaks of gray in her dark hair, stepped forward. Her eyes widened as she took in our appearance. You're the Neodogs, but how?" "Long story, Captain," I replied, my enhanced hearing already picking up the sounds of Fang's team securing the last of engineering. "Your ship is clear, but we need to move quickly. Those alien ships are still out there." The next few hours were a blur of activity. We helped the boundless crew make emergency repairs, coordinated with Fang's team to round up any remaining slime aliens for study, and prepared for our departure. As the immediate danger passed, I couldn't help but notice the way the human crew looked at us, a mixture of awe, gratitude, and unease. It was a stark reminder of our exile, of the fear that had driven us from Earth. Nova approached me as I was checking our ship's systems for departure. "Rex," she said softly, "the captain wants to speak with you. Says it's important." I nodded, steeling myself for what was sure to be an awkward conversation. Captain Yara was waiting in a small conference room, her face a mask of conflicting emotions. Sergeant Wolfborn, she began, then paused, seemingly unsure how to continue. We owe you our lives. Without your intervention, we would have been lost. Just doing our job, Captain, I replied, falling back on old habits. She shook her head. But it's not your job anymore, is it? Not since Earth. She trailed off, then squared her shoulders. I want you to know that not all of us agreed with the exile. What was done to you and your kind was wrong. I felt a lump form in my throat. Thank you, Captain. That means a lot. I'll be making a full report of this incident, she continued. I'll make sure everyone knows it was you who saved us. Maybe it will help change some minds back home. As much as I wanted to believe her words could make a difference, cynicism born of bitter experience tempered my hope. I appreciate that, Captain, but I'm not sure it will be enough. She nodded, understanding in her eyes. Perhaps not. But it's a start. And for what it's worth, if I had any say in the matter, I'd welcome you and your team back to Earth with open arms. As we prepared to depart, the boundless crew gathered to see us off. There were handshakes, words of thanks, and even a few tearful hugs from those we'd rescued directly. Back on our own ship, as we set course for Luna Nova, the mood was subdued. We had won, saved lives, faced a new threat, all the things that once would have filled us with unambiguous pride. But now, the victory felt hollow. Well, Fang said, breaking the silence, that was something. Just like old times, huh? Nova nodded, a wry smile on her face. Yeah, if you ignore the part where we're going back to our exile on a glowing space rock, instead of a hero's welcome on Earth. Do you think it made a difference? Whiskers asked, his whiskers twitching nervously. The captain said she'd report what we did. Maybe it will change things. I wanted to believe it. Part of me, the optimistic pup that had first embraced our role as humanity's protectors, desperately hoped that this act of selfless heroism would be enough to overcome the fear and prejudice that had driven us away. But the veteran in me, the dog who had seen the darker side of both human and alien nature, knew better. It might make some difference, I said carefully, but we can't count on it. We did good work today, saved lives. That has to be enough. As Luna Nova's glowing surface filled our view screen, I found myself reflecting on our situation. We had proven, once again, that we were humanity's best defense against the unknown. We had faced a new terrifying enemy and emerged victorious. By all rights, we should be heroes. Instead, we were returning to our self-imposed exile, our actions likely to be debated and dissected by the very people we'd sworn to protect. As we landed, the familiar glow of our adopted home washing over us, I made a decision. Gathering the team, I voiced the thoughts that had been brewing since we'd first received the distress call. Today proved something I began. It proved that no matter what Earth thinks of us, no matter where we are, we're still protectors. It's who we are. It's what we were made for. Nods of agreement rippled through the group. But it also proved that we can't just sit here on Luna Nova, waiting for the next crisis. There's a whole galaxy out there, full of threats that humanity isn't prepared for. Threats like those slime aliens. What are you suggesting? Rex Nova asked, though the gleam in her eye told me she already knew. I'm suggesting we stop waiting for Earth to change its mind. We start being proactive. We use our skills, our abilities to protect humanity whether they want us to or not. We become independent contractors. Fang's tail began to wag. You mean mercenaries, dogs for hire. I grinned, feeling a sense of purpose I hadn't experienced since our exile began. Something like that. But we choose our jobs, we set our own rules. We protect those who need protecting, fight the battles others can't. As I looked at my team, human and Neodog alike, I saw the same fire, the same determination I felt. We had been forged in war, tempered by betrayal, and now we would reshape ourselves into something new. So I said, my tail giving an involuntary wag of excitement, who's with me? Who wants to become a dog of war? The chorus of barks, woofs, and enthusiastic hell yeahs that answered me was all I needed to hear. As we began to plan our new venture, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. We might be exiled from Earth, but we had found a new purpose, a new mission. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. The dogs of war were unleashed, and we were ready to show the universe what we could do. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you loved it. Please remember to subscribe if you did like it so you can see more videos like this. And please give us a like and a comment too. I'll see you in the next one.